Hey, I'm Skippen. I really like portable drawing tablets, so something like the Surface Go 2 right here is really going to appeal to someone like me. It reminds me a lot of sketchbooks, and specifically 8.5 by 11 sketchbooks like this one. These sketchbooks are classic, preferred by many artists for their small size, but still gives you enough room to work on various sketches and take notes. With similar dimensions, the Surface Go 2 may be a great tablet for artists who also love sketchbooks in this size. But the mid-sized iPads also fit into this category of sketchbook-like digital drawing devices. And if you throw in their respective keyboard and styli, these two devices look very similar and come in at a very similar price point. So after using the Surface Go 2 for a little while, I wanted to give my thoughts on who could benefit from using a Surface Go 2 or who should be looking at an iPad instead. The first type of user that stood out to me was students. The more portable size would make this a great companion for art students wanting an all-in-one device, or those wanting to squeeze in drawing between classes but don't want to sacrifice on their note-taking. Having similar dimensions to a sketchbook, the Surface Go 2 feels great in the hand. It's light enough but still sturdy enough to draw or take notes while holding it like a slate. Even without a keyboard, when you're using the Surface Go 2 with one hand, something I find beneficial for both students and for artists is the ability to have a virtual keyboard on screen whenever you need it. This is a nice way to compensate for the lack of robust touch gestures on Windows and Windows apps. This makes drawing on the go feel a lot better by letting you switch between your brushes and access necessary functions in a much faster way than navigating through menus. But with that being said, the tablet mode on the Surface Go 2 is still very limited to what you can do with the pen. But when you can flip out the kickstand and keyboard, the Surface Go 2 and Windows open up to a lot more possibilities. Not only is the drawing angle really nice with the hinge, the typing experience never gets in the way, letting you focus on your work. All of that, along with the great integration of the Surface Pen, is a powerful experience in a small package. As good as the competition is, the little details on OneNote with the Surface Pen work exactly the way that you would expect it to, and it's been a joy to use this little device to plan my videos and take notes. The Surface Go 2 isn't a powerhouse, but for the majority of 2D design apps and productivity apps, I think you're going to be just fine with this device. Although it could be your back-to-school computer, I think students would have a better experience if this was their supplementary computer. The limited storage and performance is going to make this difficult to use for 4 years of school, so those that have access to school computers or a computer at home that's a little bit more powerful could see this as a great secondary device, especially those that want to draw on the go. A lot of benefits that students would see from the Surface Go 2 would also apply to illustrative and 2D design professionals. Having access to real Photoshop in such a small package to create or even work collaboratively on a file with a client is a great asset. You could of course do this on an iPad, and I've done so many times in the past, but being able to open your complex files and have access to the traditional Photoshop layout is just a more comfortable experience. Of course, there are many options for professionals, and not everybody has to meet with their clients directly, but for those that do, the Surface Go 2 could be a great option. Since it's so small and light, you could easily leave it in your bag and always have it when you need it and never notice it. It's easy enough to transfer your latest project or start on something new whenever inspiration strikes. Beyond just pure artistic needs, the pen and keyboard come in great when you need to answer emails or when you're trying to plan out your next project, or even planning a video, like this one. To be completely honest, you can do most, if not all of this work on an iPad, but as easy as it is to start on many of these tasks, I often find that later down in the road, it becomes more difficult on iPads. In a very similar form factor, the Surface Go 2 just doesn't have as many roadblocks in the way of my productivity. But when it comes to pure drawing, the lines are a little bit more blurred. If you plan to draw purely as a hobby on the Surface Go 2, I can't recommend it over the iPad because the drawing experience out of the box is just subpar. A lot of software will just not register pen pressure, and even if it does, the experience isn't the best. You can fix a lot of the issues by downloading WinTab drivers, as well as a software solution called Lazy Nezumi for cleaner strokes, but the core Windows experience just doesn't lend itself to drawing without a keyboard. For those that don't absolutely need Windows software or productivity features, the iPad has a much better drawing experience out of the box, even without a keyboard. Drawing on iPads with apps like Procreate feel much more akin to drawing on paper compared to desktop Photoshop that can be a confusing experience for those who rarely draw digitally. Artists wanting to try their hand at digital drawing for the first time are going to have a much friendlier experience on iPads. Even Windows users who don't have productivity needs can have a great time just drawing on iPads. Regardless of which one you choose, both devices can get the job done. But I feel that the iPad lends itself to a more free form of creativity, but can leave some very frustrated on the most simple of tasks and doesn't necessarily support professional workflows. And Windows isn't the best OS for a tablet, but for those willing to compromise, you could very much split the difference between creativity and productivity on the Surface Go 2 as long as the workload isn't too big. But when you factor in price, I think the choice becomes a lot more clear for anyone looking at these two devices. The only configuration of the Surface Go 2 you should get is the highest end version. Anything less than a Core M3 and 8 gigs of RAM will be very frustrating in the long run. When you add a keyboard and pen, you're looking at almost $900 total. And at that price point, I think you really need a good justification for using Windows. For me, I really like using Paint Tool SI, and this device has let me do that on the go, as well as planning out videos, and the overall experience for me has been paying off. But there are a lot of iPads out there that offer a great drawing experience and can be had for a lot cheaper. If you're not going to be doing much productivity on your iPad, I think you could skip the keyboard and save some money, and you could also look at 1 generation or 2 generation old iPads that are refurbished on Apple's website and save quite a bit of money over the Surface Go 2. And for artists looking for a primary computer for just a bit more money, you could go out and get a Surface Pro, which will deliver more performance for just a slightly larger package. But for those like me who will go to extreme lengths to run Paint Tool SI and Real Photoshop on their iPads, this could be a device that replaces that iPad and that extra computer, so it's a welcome competitor in this market. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I'm still experimenting with the Surface Go 2, seeing how I could integrate into my workflow, and once I spend some more time with it, I plan to do a proper review. So if you have any questions or concerns, please write them below. I'll either answer you in the comments or in the follow-up video. I'm Skip N, and I hope to see you next time.